Welcome to TCI headquarters. We've got a special guest tonight. Chad Ferry, Tyler Corbett, if you're watching. You guys left this in the studio, so figured we'd break that out for Halloween this week.
I thought you were saying he was a special guest.
Yeah, so did I.
Well, he's kind of a special guest too. He hadn't been here in a few weeks. He can't have the Pat spelled, then not spelled forward.
I don't know what you expect from a Dallas fan.
Especially when he gets
surprisingly, Will wore his Steelers stuff today.
Yeah, I was a little thrown off by that.
Honestly, here's the difference. Here's the difference. Bandwagons?
Bandwagon.
Steeler fans aren't.
From birth, but bandwagon.
No, but y'all don't let people know when you're losing. I'm losing, and look what's still wearing.
All right.
Just saying.
Don't think that's.
We won't bring up the whole terrible towel discussion from last.
Please don't.
All right, guys. We are here not to talk about the Steelers or the Cowboys or Halloween. We are here to talk about Clemson football, unfortunately.
Unfortunately.
We had a Tyler from Spartanburg press conference today.
Yeah.
Dabo was much calmer today in the press conference, but very lengthy in his discussion of a bunch of topics over and over. And obviously last night on his radio show, he had a caller, and I blame CCP for letting that go as far as it did. It should not have gotten to that. I think they should have cut that guy off, but they did. But anyway, I guess we got to start there because that was maybe, I don't know, 7 or 8 of Dabo's questions, or they all turned, and Cornblue even came back with one more try after Ross had said no more questions.
Right.
To ask him another try at that apple, but get your thoughts first.
Yeah, I mean, I thought, like you said, Dabo, I thought was very more, because he had time to think about it and all. Now, he did apologize for his statements last night. Now, if you did notice that, he did not apologize. But he did hold back and not get too emotional, though I think a couple times I thought he was going to. He was getting close. I think that's why Cornblue kept trying to push the button. But, I thought overall, like, he answered it well. I thought he was very direct to his points that he wanted to make about. And he said one thing, and I heard people ask this today, right? Fans were saying, hey, why does Dabo keep saying the 1.5 is the problem? Like, they're not the ones fumbling. They're not that. And Dabo answered that question today. He said the problem that he has with the fans, those 1.5, the guys like Tyler from Spartanburg, if you will, he says, is they're the ones that the recruits are hearing. So he says it puts doubt into the recruits, and he says it does hurt us in recruiting. When they have fans that are questioning the coaches, questioning the players and all this, and recruits are sitting there thinking, do I want to go there because of that? So Dabo kind of brought that point up from a recruiting standpoint. That's where the 1.5 is hurting. That's where it hurts. So it kind of answered that question.
I actually talked to another reporter. I left after Dabo and talked to another senior reporter that was there today and asked Dabo about the question. That it's the 1.5%, I think, is a hard topic. Because if you want to talk about fringe fans, you could probably talk about the 1.5. If you want to talk about Clemson fans that have concerns with where the program is and where the season is, that's a whole lot more than 1.5%.
Yeah. Might be talking a majority.
Yeah, so right. It's very gray when you start putting those numbers. A lot of the questions that Tyler from Spartanburg, who's getting a lot of airtime, asked last night are the same things we've had discussed on the message boards, the same things a lot of non-fringe fans are discussing. It was more the way he asked the question and the personal attacks. But the topics are the topics that a lot of fans are discussing.
Yeah, they were. And by the way, I counted I guess you could say he was, what was the word I'm looking for? When he was condescending. I counted the number of times he was condescending to Dabo last night. It was 12. As he went through his interview, I counted it 12 times. So that's why Dabo got mad.
And he used that A word 5 times, if you were counting.
Who, Tyler? No, that's Tyler. Not Dabo. Dabo may use the A word 5 times. I'm talking like the fan. Tyler from Spartanburg was condescending 12 times in his little rant. So, and that's why Dabo didn't hear any of the questions he was asking him, because he was being too condescending. And you're right. I think the questions are fair, and I think fans are out there, but they're not the Tylers that are asking those questions. To me, those aren't the fans Dabo's talking about. Those fans that have legitimate questions, I think they're legitimate and they need to be answered. But Tyler, he wanted it answered, but he didn't go about it the right way. And, that's why Dabo overshadowed those questions. And so fans, understand it's the way you ask it, not you can't be that way. And I think that's what got lost was, he did ask some questions that needed to be answered, but because he was so condescending, Dabo didn't hear any of it. Dabo just got mad, and I could see Dabo boiling as I'm hearing that audio. And so the fans, though, I don't think those are the fans Dabo's talking to, though, because Dabo, he answered that one lady's question last night about the quarterback situation. He didn't get mad because she asked it in a nice way. So it's still those kind of fans that he's talking about. It's those negative fans. I see them on Twitter. They troll me all the time. I have a couple of them trolling me today. So it's like I know the fans that are out there. There are the 1.5. Those are the ones that are heard. I don't see the good fans on our message board that are the good fans. We see them, but on Twitter and the radio, those aren't all the good fans. Trust me. Most of them are the 1.5 Dabo's talking about. I live it. So I know what he's talking about.
No, I live it too. I've got a message board.
Yeah, but they're good. They're good fans. Those are the good fans.
Some got that mix on there, and I'd say majority of those questions that he asked last night, we've had lots of discussions about.
Right.
And those are the problems. And, I guess the other big thing Dabo talked about today, we'll move, I guess, a little bit off that topic. We could probably talk about it for an hour.
Okay.
He was asked about, the problems this year, and he had 3 answers. Turnovers, and turnovers. Or fumbles, and fumbles. If they hadn't had the fumbles, Clemson would be undefeated and in the playoff hunt, according to Dabo Smith.
But they didn't have any fumbles last week.
I was about to say that didn't save them.
That didn't save them last week against NC State. They had 2 interceptions last week. So he would have safer to say turnovers. But I knew where he was going.
Yeah,
that's what he was getting at. Yeah. So, but anyway, that's been the problem all year from week 1, and it hasn't gotten any better.
That has been a problem.
And
not been fixed.
Hasn't been fixed.
And as you said, it was turnovers. I mean, they did have the one fumble that was not recovered that hurt them badly, where one of the offensive linemen jumped on it, but we lost 15 yards, and that's third forever. But those are just self-inflicted mistakes. We've had you get in the 5-yard line, and you got offensive linemen getting procedure call every time they get down there. So there's a lot of things you could look at, but the flip side is most teams when they lose can point to something that's happening, right? Well, if only we remind you a lot of Kevin Steele, who used to have defense, and we even heard some of that this week. Well, the defense held them to 70 yards if you take away these 2 65, 70-yard plays. Unfortunately, that's the game of football. You can't do that.
You can't. Well, the fun thing is you're right. So this week we've heard that with the defense, with those 2 defensive plays. However, with the offense, there's so many, we can't really point to any. I mean, it's like there's so many mistakes. Dabo was talking about the missed plays. Larry, one of the writers, was trying to be positive and talk about the big plays, and Dabo's like, yeah, then we missed this play, we missed this play, we missed this play, and he went on that rant.
The problem is Clemson used to be good enough where they could have a few mistakes and it didn't matter because they were just so much better than they wanted. The reality is this team and the talent level is now not that much better than their opponents every week. So when they do have those mistakes, they're not able to overcome them.
Correct.
So the mistakes are, what everybody sees, but there's bigger issues there. All right, Cameron, you were there Monday before the Tyler from Spartanburg discussion derailed everything.
Much more time.
Talk about some of the players.
So I guess first things first, obviously, Cade didn't talk after the game on Saturday. People were a little bit concerned about that. And before anybody even got to asking him questions on Monday, he's like, I wanted to be there with my team, so I didn't talk to media after the game, so take that as you will. But then he went at length afterwards.
Was he talking to Will?
Potentially.
I didn't have no problem with what he did the other night.
But, so he went at length just talking about where the team's confidence is, and there's a lot of things that are playing into the issues, and obviously, you want the big plays, and that's another thing to talk about. And we had talked about on Saturday, there was a lot of opportunities downfield where we saw it, but he might not have, and I think that goes with the pressure. There's a lot of changes on the offensive line, and that leads us right into the next guy, Tristan Lee, who we talked to. Everybody came to the year, okay, he's going to be your left tackle, but he found out Monday before the game against NC State that he's going to slide over to right guard. And while the offensive line might not have played well, he might have put together the best tape that any of the offensive linemen had put in the entire year in his first game at right guard. PFF grades offensive linemen, and he had an 89.2, which, if I'm not mistaken, is higher than anyone's put in a single game as a pass blocker. That's what he put on Saturday. So, hey, they've been shuffling a lot at right guard, and he said all he did was adjust, and he's an over-communicator. And Clemson might have hit the jackpot with moving him to right guard. Obviously, you've still got issues to figure out all across the offensive line, but you've got one that you made an adjustment and it finally stuck to the wall.
Well, hopefully he can play there
Yeah.
this week, because later in the game, Sadler was helped off the field, which a lot of people haven't talked about, and Dabo hasn't been asked about this week, and he had to move back to tackle. So hopefully this week they can have him back. They can get Sadler in there, and they can have this. Dabo's called them their best 5.
Yeah, and the thing about, if you watch that game as it went on, as they played together more with Miller and Lee there at that right side, they got better on that off. They communicated better. They got better, and then the 41-yard run by Moffa came on their side, and so you saw some improvement there on that right side of the line, which we hadn't seen in several weeks. Let's be honest. Now, granted, they're going to face a different beast this week with that Notre Dame defensive front, but man, Notre Dame's got some players. We'll talk about that later, but anyway, it was good to see them, as you were saying, show some continuity a little bit on that right side, which they haven't had.
And then, so the other thing, Trey Williams, defensive lineman, he hadn't played in a year with a shoulder injury coming off surgery. It's not the first time he's had the injury, but with the issues Clemson's had with injuries, he was forced to play against NC State, another one where he found out on Monday. But he was kind of loud. He's like, "Oh, all right, let's go." He was excited to play. But now Clemson's in a weird spot, because to still have that medical red shirt, you can only play in 4 games. He just played in one, so he's only got 3 left, and there's 4 games. So Clemson has to decide where they're going to take him out, and Ross immediately jumped in that situation. He's like, "Yeah, no, the plan is to still do the medical red shirt." So that's gonna be what it is. Right now, I feel like if you're looking at all the games, you probably circle Georgia Tech as the game that you sit them out. But obviously, injuries.
I think you'll see Peter Woods back this week. I think they, quite frankly, thought they could get by sitting Peter Woods last week.
And save him for this week.
They thought they were going to go in and win that game and save him for the stretch runs. I think you'll see him back. I've noticed during the warm-ups, Miami game, Trey was actually out there doing a little bit in the pregame, and I wondered that game if he was going to finally see the field, knowing that they had those 4 games they could use. And Dabo even, earlier in the season talked, we're going to get him out there at some point. So, as you said, they'll find a way to maneuver the next 4 games and let him play in 3 when Peter's there. They don't need him a ton, but they just, I think they kind of want to see him just get back on the football field.
Yeah, I think it makes more sense because I think you need Peter Woods this week. I really do, against that Notre Dame front offensive line. So I would say that, and of course, it would be great if you had Trey Williams too, let's be honest. But you only got 3 games, so which game do you pick? Is the Notre Dame game more important, or is the Georgia Tech game? I think you make a valid point. If Peter Woods is playing, you don't need Trey as much. You probably dress Trey for this game, and you have him ready to play.
Somebody gets hurt.
Then you roll him out there, and then you figure it out from there. So I look Georgia Tech probably more.
Trey's a big part of the future. I mean, he's been disruptive with the medical red shirt this year. He'll have 2 more years to play if he takes the COVID year. So, obviously Clemson's going to lose a couple of really good defensive tackles. So he's a big part of the answer next year, and hopefully he'll, put it all together. And for him, it's really been just injuries that have prevented him from having a big impact the last few years.
Absolutely. And, I think he can, like you mentioned, with DeMonte Capart's coming on now. You got Peter Woods, you get Burley back. So you're going to be, I think you're okay in the interior. Oh, Page, let's not forget about him. Yes, I think you're okay in the interior of that defensive line. And so you're feeling good about your future there. And
feeling good about the future. There we go.
But yeah, but defensive end obviously is what the question is. And we saw last week they played a lot of guys. Hoffler played. You saw Sapp get in and play. So they're kind of getting prepared too. I think you're going to see more of that here in the next few weeks.
Well, you're at the point this year. Obviously, you want to win the next 4 games, but you got to start looking at next year and trying to prepare and figure out what you got, because you're going to end up going in that portal here in a couple of months, shockingly so. And you're going to kind of need to figure out where you need to fill some holes.
Yeah. And before we get out of here, I'd like to talk about Carter and we got Spector today, Carter and Spector. And, I kind of asked both of them about, this is an opportunity this week. If people are paying attention, this is the game where it all fell apart for Clemson last year. And they lost to Notre Dame. Barrett Carter said today that, for some reason, they went into that game not ready. He's like, even though we're coming off a bye, we weren't ready for that. Even though we knew they were physical, we just weren't ready for what they did to them. and he said that was kind of embarrassing. And they look at this game; they're 7-7 since that Notre Dame game last year. And he says we look at this game as our turnaround game. We can flip the script, if you will, if we can go in there and win this game. And so they're looking at this game as it was the game last year that started their fall. They look at this. This could be the game this year that starts their rise back up. So we'll see how it was interesting to see their perspective on that, though. Like, you know, and especially Barrett Carter to admit they weren't ready to play that game against Notre Dame last year, and they got. He said that won't be the case on Saturday.
And if you want to see more Barrett Carter and Jeremiah Trotter, they were in the studio yesterday, and we have another version of Crash Course coming up in the next 24 hours. Nice lead in there.
There you go.
Cameron, you got anything else you want to throw out there?
I think we covered everything.
All right, Will?
I think that's it.
You good?
Yeah.
We'll just want to see the orange pants this week, which is not going to
Hey, Barry Carter says see, they didn't know this, did they? I didn't know this. It's going to be an orange out Saturday. So Barrett was asked, since it's going to be an orange out, do you think you could talk Coach Sweeney into wearing the orange breeches? And Barrett says he's gonna ask him, see if they can get it done.
When did they wear the orange breeches, Will?
They're supposed to wear them, but they're not going to play for a championship.
When did they wear them?
Do you want to go a whole year without wearing the all orange?
When did they?
There's only one uniform.
There's meaning to only wearing them when you're playing.
No, the original meaning.
Start getting away from that. That meaning.
They've already got away from that. The original meaning. The original meaning of the orange pants, for the young people like Cameron who don't know, the original meaning of the orange pants is to wear them against South Carolina and to wear them in big games.
What's Dabo's rule about orange pants?
They did need to wear all
orange.
When
they're playing for a championship.
There's only one uniform that is solid all the way through, from top to bottom, and that's the
solid
purple. No, there is no solid purple. There never should be, and if there is, I'm done. I'm done. All orange is one, and it needs to be worn at least once a year. At least once a year it needs to be worn. I'm sorry.
All right, guys, y'all see how I push those buttons there?
Yeah, he knows how to get me.
It's pretty easy. You guys stay tuned. We'll have everything covered for you all weekend here from Clemson as the Irish come to town, and we'll see what happens. Hopefully the Tigers can, as Will said, this will be the start of the Phoenix of the Tigers. So stay tuned to Clemson Insider for the most complete coverage of Clemson athletics.